Hello, welcome to a new video. So today we are going to bike in a very disorganized way to Windmill in Breukelen, which is a small village outside of Utrecht, and it's also by Brooklyn in New York. It's called Brooklyn. It's from the name Breukelen. My parents used to have a second home there, and yeah, this video will be a little bit strange because the first 25 to 30 minutes we are actually going the wrong way. So I will put a map in there at some point to explain what happened. But I wanted to go all the way near the water. It's Sunday and it's probably one of the last nice sunny Sundays in the Netherlands. So I know it's about 25, 30 minutes bicycle ride, but I wanted to go next to the water, which is called the Vecht. But for that, I had to go to a certain starting point. The problem was when I was going there, it was actually locked down. Quite a few parts of the city were locked down because, funny enough, they had a bicycle race going on. So, yeah, professional bicyclists or what we call wielrenners were actually doing their thing. So I had to be rerouted and then I kind of got lost. So I figured I have two options: either throw this video away or make it anyway and just show you what happens if you somehow get lost. So I'm using an application called Komoot, and I planned my route using that. The nice thing about Komoot, in a way, is that when you get lost in your tracking, if unlike Google, it does not reroute you, which is in this case a good thing because you have planned a certain route. But it does give you a stippled line, so a dotted line to the direction that you need to go go back on the route. Now, when we get there, you will notice that I even there I make a mistake because I kind of knew where I wanted to pick up the river, but that was also kind of locked down. So yeah, multiple problems. But in the end, that means that you can see a bicycle ride, what happens if you get lost in Utrecht, and how to get to the outskirts. And at some point, we do get back on track again, and we are going to the windmill, which I was going there because I'm taking photography pictures, and I wanted to have that windmill in my collection. So we are going over the big water, the canal, which we have seen many times, the Amsterdam Rhine Canal. We are going to follow that later on a little bit. And the first plan was to go quite near to it. But of course we can't go from the bridge all the way down. There is a stairs, but that's kind of tricky. So the first place where we're going to deroute is actually we are going over this bridge to get to the other side. And you can almost see it in the right corner, or now the left. So there is a road there, and we want to get to that road. So, but to get there, we either can take a stairs, and Google, being Google, advise you to take the stairs where the girl is now walking. It's a girl. Yes, it's a girl. She's walking. There's a stairs. You can take it, but with a bike, not that easy. So we have to go around the coffee factory to get there. So I'll probably put the map here, and you can see what a strange route we are going to take. Skateboarding, I guess, for some people still a hobby. And again, it's still weekend and still a sunny day, so quite a few people with their kids in bakfietsen. I also noticed quite a few people with fat bikes. Yesterday I was telling somebody you don't see them a lot, and in average you don't see them a lot. So now we're going left or right, sorry, simply to get down the same bridge as we saw before. And it actually sets us up for the wrong route, because This is one of the roads which were blocked because of the bicycle race going on, which I didn't know about. And normally I would almost argue they find a way to let bicycle traffic go through, but in this case, nope. So we are now going to drive next to the canal, and that would have led us to the small river. That was my plan. So again, you can now see the yellow bridge which we just crossed. So we did our first loop-the-loop. So that means that the trip that was supposed to take, I don't know, 30 minutes took an hour. You can see on the building on the right of us it says tabak, so smoking, and coffee factory, which we talked about before. If you haven't noticed before, there are quite a few, let's say, elderly people which are on their e-bikes doing their thing, which is great to see. And again, so this is one of the yellow bikes you can rent, so they're all over the city, and you can rent a bike and take your 2 kids and put them in the bucket and go. And now you see we're being blocked for the first time. So it says you have to go that way, but in the end it was quite a long way, because even my second approach, because I didn't know where it was blocked or what it was blocking, so I figured I'd go a little bit further and then go back again, but that turned out to be a bad idea. But this is, we talked about this before, an average Utrecht street. So it looks a little bit different than an Amsterdam street. Like I said yesterday, most of the time the homes are not as high, so not 4 floors, or 3 floors, but mostly 2 floors. In this case you treat 3-floor ones, but they feel more open in Amsterdam. Especially the inner city, of course. I guess the good news that considering of course the homes are closer together, so that we don't have any cars. Clearly this gives you a good view that many people own cars in a regular street. As you can see, everybody gives some space to bicycle around. So this was my first plan. I figured, well, I detoured quite enough. I had to stop, and then his bag was somewhat making a noise, and oh well, let's pass. So I'm going to the left here, but then I get blocked again. So far it was a good plan. And then things go all haywire. So this is like a storage facility, like you see also in other countries. You can store your stuff if you want. There were not many people biking here. That should have already given me a feeling that something was up. But I'm not as smart. So this is getting us back to the canal. Yeah, you see when we are approaching the blockade, that you can actually see the speed racers bicycles go by. a typical industry area. There they go. Some people were watching. And I also got the feeling, well, I'm blocked also on this side. So that didn't help me. So turning around and going back again and finding a different route to get to where I want to go. By this time I'm already in the wrong part of the city. But everything still felt okay. We were detouring for about 10 minutes. Of course you can wonder why I put this video online, because well, I did the bike ride, I did the recording. Doing this voiceover is not that much work. And if you don't want to watch this part, I think if you go in probably half an hour or at the half hour point, then I get back to track and you can see some nice shots of the water, and we are going to pass one of the quite famous business university, which is housed in a castle, Leidserijn. And then slowly we get to the windmill. But for now I had another plan. I was like, okay, in the city I can also pick up this small river and then go from there. And that kind of was not a bad idea, but I kind of got lost again, and then I decided to follow the commute dotted line and get back to my original track. Funny enough, we are going to, maybe we can see it really quickly when we are going under this tunnel. On your right you will see a mural, which is actually of two famous speed racers, so bicycle races. And you see them. Both of them won the Tour de France, which if you are into cycling is the important one. You can see it on the side of the building. Then I forgot where I was going, so I take the bicycle path which they created. It's almost like a high-speed bicycle path between the two city areas. And again, we have now attacked it in different ways. When we got back, we were pretty close to the coffee bridge again. So we were there like 10 minutes ago. So we did two totally useless loop-the-loops and now going into the inner city, using this direct connection between the two city parts. A hint, you already see the train tracks, which of course are going to the middle of the city on your left. Funny enough, you can see that if you are getting close to a bollard or some signage which is reflective, that even in the daytime the lights on my bike are so strong, even the normal lights, so not the headlights but not the high beams but the normal beam, is actually quite strong, that you can see it even in the daytime. I'm lighting up reflectors and reflected paint. Useless information, only to get you only get it on this channel. I talked about it before. I don't actually like this route because we have these speed bumps, and not a big fan of them. So in some of these locations or a left hand, as a kid I was playing around quite a lot, doing things that you're not supposed to be doing. So we call it in Dutch kattenkwaad uithalen, which you would translate as kattenkwaad. So it's like how do you translate that? Yeah, I guess cats fooling around or mucking about or whatever. There were more sort of buildings and youth shopping places, which is now kind of turned into a park. And again, in the morning, this route is quite busy because it's taking a lot of the bicycle traffic from the outside area, the new area of the city, into the inner city, to either go to the central station, to go to work in another city, or to go into the central station, central area to work. Here again a mural, I missed that one, so maybe I should take a picture of that one. Didn't know it was there. I'm also taking, we are now going to a windmill, but I'm also slowly trying to take pictures of all the murals we have in Utrecht. So this is kind of the end, so we do a weird loop to get into the tunnel, into the inner city. They're also working on this part a little bit, so I had to brake and figure out where to go. But even now you can see when we are kind of lost in the city, how little car interaction there is if you stay on the bicycle path. Sorry about the flickering of the lights. I record this in 60 frames a second, which turns out to be the best way to work, because it looks the most smooth when you put it on YouTube. But it does mean that sometimes the lights flicker, because they are different frequency. In this case we're using PAL, so 50 Hertz in Europe, and that sometimes conflicts more than the if I would put it on 60 Hertz. But we don't bicycle a lot in the dark or in tunnels, so I take the compromise to have somewhat smoother video. So my plan was that about a few hundred meters further we should pick up the small river, but something went wrong and I had to detour again. As you can see, lots of bicycles, and I actually can't go into this bicycle path there, which I did not know, so I have to go back and then go to the left here. Which is fine. I guess I'm now on the correct side of the road, which also makes more sense. At the beginning of this water, so in the bend that we just passed, there was the end of the main highway everybody is talking about in Utrecht. That was oh, this was almost an accident. Of course the taxi was going a little bit fast, but also the other driver was not being that smart. But you can see there's quite a lot of car traffic, and there's actually a small traffic jam left and right. And of course the cab is going to make known that what happened before was not the correct thing to do. Give them space before they make more mistakes. So I know that this water is going into the river that we want to follow. So far it was a good plan. It's actually also quite a nice area. There's a small bridge which you can see in front of us that you can walk over to get to the other side. And I think if I'm correct, there's actually a camera below the water that you can see the fish, and you can open. I should put a link in there if I can find it. You can open a little door inside the sluice. I think this one, that you can let the fish pass by. I'm not sure why it was there, but I will put a link somewhere over here, or at least some information that you can see that I'm not lying. And you can see how busy it is in the city, right? There's quite a lot of cars about. I had to brake right for him, and then we start following him, so maybe I should have not let him pass. Oh well. So you see quite a lot of these bakfietsen, so cargo bikes. He was also at some point stopping a bit and continuing to speed up. So he was clearly looking for his location where he needed to be. And you can see why in this case a bakfiets, so a cargo bike, actually makes more sense than a car, right? You can zip around the city in most of the time quicker than with a car. Which you have seen was locked. And here again you can see, not sure what's happening here. Oh, the bridge was open, so yep. That's why they were waiting. He's looking at me like, okay, do you want to pass? Do you not want to pass? What's up? I'm like, oh well, I'll stay behind you. He's also going about 23, 24 kilometers an hour. So by now we are detouring for about 20 minutes. But we are next to the water that I wanted to be at, and I figured that was a good idea. You can see that this is more an average road. You can notice that because this is where people are living. So they use cobblestones most of the time. Of course you can still drive your bicycle there. But it's not as comfortable to ride because the cobblestones make a little bit more noise, and yeah, they just don't bicycle that nicely. But it's totally safe. There's a wedding up front, and it's kind of interesting because I think it's a combination Dutch, Turkish or Moroccan wedding. So I tried to slow down, but I don't think you can see much what was happening. I think they were just taking some pictures before they went to the wedding or whatever. But here you can see we are following the water. I will check out if I made a mistake and I could have followed the water, but at some point it goes wrong. This is called the Red Bridge for obvious reason. Although, I guess I can tell you the story. Normally the Red Bridge, or the Rode Brug, would be the place where there were boats with hookers in there. So it was basically the red light district area of Utrecht. Which was actually not at this bridge, so it was also always wrong. The Red Bridge was not the place where it was further along, but they are mostly gone now. Of course, prostitution in the Netherlands is way more accepted, so it's not a big deal. And you can see these boats here, so it was actually not in this boat but further along. But really enough, the Red Bridge is that bridge, and why it was called the Red Bridge area, I'm not sure. I probably forgot. I have to Google it, what was the original intention there. You also see these round thingies on the side. They are mostly bicycle parkings, owned, or at least I think the key is only available for a certain amount of homes. We just passed a really big American truck, so we do have them. You can see how big they are compared to the other cars around. But these yeah, weirdly water shaped bike storages, there are about, I think about 10 or 15 bikes you can put in them, and then you can lock them. So I think it's more for like neighborhoods. I never used one, but I'm guessing that's how it works. Still following the water, and I think somewhere over here we kind of decide, okay, we don't see the water anyway, so let's try to get back to the original route. No, I'll do that later. We're still trying to follow it, but I had a good plan, and then it all went sideways. But as you can see, I actually now stopping here to figure out what I'm going to do. I forgot that I stopped. I'm not taking it out. So I will show you the picture once again. What the problem was, and I think we are now close to trying to get back to the official route. But you see on the map, which I'm now putting on the screen, that we took quite a detour. I'm still stopping again, rethinking my previous decision. What do I do? What do I do? But you can see if you live here, it's not too much car noise, and you have water about 30 meters in front of your home. What I like about these types of homes, if you go and live there, you're almost sure that there's never going to be like a busy road popping up in front of you, or the water going away for some reason. So in some ways that's nicer than I live in the area where there are new homes. But if you buy a really nice home with, let's say, a view of the water, you're never sure if they're going to build something else there. So that's the good news if you live in some of these older parts of the city. Kind of, the building is kind of done. So here I decide, I think, okay, let's go to the left, I think, because we are not seeing the water anyway. Oh, not yet. See, I was quite stubborn. You can see next to the water, they most of the time put some picnic places there. It's not busy out. It's kind of surprising. In lots of areas it was quite empty. So I did try to follow the water quite a long time, but you can't really see it. So it didn't do what I expected. Still, it's a clear example of if you have to go from city part to city part, that yeah, you have quite a comfortable ride to all the major areas in the city. He was going very slow, but I don't want to push him too much. So braking and braking again. You don't want to make people feel uncomfortable. And here we go again. Again, I'm not like going extremely fast, but I'm going at a good speed. So if somebody goes really slow, you do notice that. So I now go to the left and sort of course, then leaving the waterway and trying to get back to the other canal, which we have seen many times before. The one where the yellow bridge is going over. To get back on the original track. Of course, by now I was hoping, and it was indeed correct, that I was not in the way of the bicycle race going on. This actually is not a bicycle path, but I only figured it out when I was over here. I'm not sure how it went from a bicycle path to a pedestrian path. I have to scroll back to see that. And you can see it's quite busy here, or there's something going on. So I look to the left and trying to figure out where do I randomly now go. And I think I made my decision I was going to the right and not to the left. Yep, I made my decision. They're all blinking, so I think, sure what's going on here. Something is going on. So in some cultures which are living in the Utrecht, if they have a party or a wedding or whatever, they like to use their horns. I guess more often than actually something is up in traffic. If you hear multiple cars honking like that, mostly there's some festivities going on. So by now I have no clear plan anymore, and I'm sort of seeing where the dotted line is aiming to and trying to go in the general direction to get back to the original path. But you can see at no point, even though I have no idea where I'm going, I don't have access to a bike path. So this is a roundabout where the bicycles always have the right of way, so that's kind of nice. So I'm riding using the GPS, but only with a dotted line, which gives me the general direction I need to go. I have almost no directional feeling, so that doesn't help. And we actually end up where my sister used to live. Again, a roundabout where the bikes have the right of way. You can see that he didn't stop. He's supposed to be stopping, but he didn't. And so you almost feel it before it happens. So I was already slowing down. Yeah, my sister used to live in this area. So I kind of know where I am, and now I kind of have an idea how to get back on the route. Because by now I've decided to follow the same water where the yellow bridge was. So we actually did a detour of about, I would guess about 25 minutes for no clear reason. But, oh well. I need to ride 50 kilometers a day, and I only did 40 kilometers so far. So after this rid, I think it was 38 kilometers total. So I had to take another ride after this one. So for me it doesn't matter. And so my sister lives in this street. Even here I make a mistake because I'm supposed to go on to the left here. And I didn't do that, I just continued driving because I was, I don't know, upset, confused, I'm not sure. Now I realize and I go like, well, I guess I have to go here then. And somehow get back to the main road. But I guess compared to the other videos you see quite a lot of normal streets. And again, you should be shocked compared to some of the new areas about the amount of cars that you see on the old city streets. So now I'm looking around because I'm looking for the supermarket, so the grocery store, which is here, so that indeed I know where I went wrong. So now I know where I am. Within about 50 meters we are finally back to the official route which I had planned. Of which we are now on. And this is the Amsterdamse Straatweg. So this is the road which is next to the bigger canal. Which again we didn't want to follow, we want to follow the river, but we will get back to the river later. There's some really nice old cars left and right. Maybe this is just me, but in the old days, so the 70s, the 80s, the 90s even, we had much more different color cars. But now with all the lease cars going around, people mostly buy white, black, grey cars. Maybe a red one if it's a rental, but the amount of colors, in my opinion, is not as nice as it was like 20 or 30 years ago. But I don't own a car, so not a problem for me. It saves you a lot of money. Another nice sort of Volkswagen bus. Or what you would in America definitely recognize as a hippie car. It was actually an interesting story. The owner of quite a lot of bike brands, also American bike brands like Santa Cruz, for example, and Gazelle, which is a Dutch brand, are owned, and Urban Arrow, so that we see a lot in the bakfietsen, are owned by one big company called PON. And why am I saying this? Because it was founded before the Second World War. And after the Second World War, the founder went to Volkswagen, which already released the Beetle, so the Beetle car, where the Volkswagen got its name from, for not so nice reasons. But he said we should really make a van, a bus, and so he actually helped design. He made the first drawing of the Beetle hippie bus. So not a Beetle, but a Volkswagen bus, which turned out to be the hippie sort of car. So it was actually made by the Dutch guy. Gave the idea to Volkswagen, and they still are now not only a very big bicycle brand, but also importer for many car brands. So Porsche and Lamborghini, I think, and Volkswagen, of course, still. And I'm not sure how big they are, but they might be the biggest bicycle group in the world. As a small detail. My dad used to work in the car industry for a brand called Citroën, which is a French brand, but he also was semi-friends with, I think it was not the founder, but maybe his son, I'm not sure, of the company I'm now talking about, so that's why. I wouldn't say that's why I know the stories, because you can just find them on Wikipedia, but that's why I looked into it, because I was wondering how all these relations were built up. So we're now next to the water, and finally I guess that's what you have if all your family comes from the same city and they have spent all their lives there. It's like, for example, remember the coffee place which also makes cigarettes? My mom used to work there when she was 15, 16. And my dad, we are going to pass one of the, he was in the car industry, so in his last years he worked at a small car dealership, sort of part-time, because otherwise he would get bored. And we are almost there, so we are heading to it. I will give a shout out when we are there. And now we see on one side the canal and on the other side the river that we were trying to follow. So we are getting back to it. For me it's quite nice in a way because when I'm biking around Utrecht, of course I'm also kind of biking around my own history. Family members and schools and things that have changed over the last 50 years, or at least the last 40 years that I can remember. So this is this building up ahead, so is where the car dealership was. There's still a fuel pump, I think. Yeah, still Esso there. But that building used to be a car. Oh, it's still a car dealer, but from a different brand. Oh, it's still the same, but still the same name. But I think they're selling a different brands now, but I'm not sure. I think last time I was here it was closed, so I'm kind of confused. I will look into that. But he worked here until he fully retired. So this is not. So one thing which you will find if you're not planning your route like I was trying to do, is that especially if you use Google Maps, which works fine for bicycling in the Netherlands. It won't send you into weird areas. There's always a bike path, but it might be next to a road, because Google tends to plan, let's say, the fastest route and not always the most enjoyable route. So Komoot is a little bit better for that, or make sure that you really plan and save it before you do it. Because now that I'm on this route, it's not, let's say, it's not like the worst bicycle path in the world. And we see a lot of newer and semi-older homes, but it's not next to greenery yet or in the forest like we tried to see on the previous bicycle rides. So we're already 45 minutes in, and I think probably in the next 15 minutes we make it to the end goal. Now what I did, because I had a little bit of battery left until it stopped working, I decided after I took the pictures of the windmill to bicycle back and to leave the camera on. So I also put it on the end, and it shows you a totally different way. It was actually I wouldn't say nicer, but I will explain when we get there why it was routing me that way. It was for sure less traffic. Although this is not like, I guess depending on where you're coming from, this is not like dead and busy street. But as you see, it's not like separated by bike paths, it's just a bike path next to the road, and now becomes totally red again, signaling that the bicycles are have an advantage here. I don't think it was officially a bicycle street, but you can already see that it's quite clearly hinting that you can only go 30 kilometers an hour. Oh, one thing I was thinking about, so if you see a lot of older people on bikes, on e-bikes, there's another reason why I think that's a good idea. So the guy is going like this, and I'm also going like this, because I'm like, okay, I need to go there, but this the one time I did something which you're not supposed to do, because I was kind of confused, the same as he. So we are going into the village area. So one of the nice things about older people on e-bikes is they go a little bit faster. So when we are talking about speed difference between cars, which are going 30 kilometers, and let's say the average younger bicyclist in the Netherlands, which might be going 20, 21 kilometers an hour, there's like 8 or 9 kilometers an hour speed difference maximum, which is fine. But older people, if they didn't have e-bikes, they would go quite slow at times, or they would be more unstable. Because the slower you go on a bike, that it relates a little bit of going less stable. So one of the nicer things, if they're on e-bikes, they tend to be quite fast. Oh, this is quite a famous little bridge, and it was open, so I could have turned the video off. I decided not to do that, so we are just going to stand here for 2 minutes while a boat is passing. So I was thinking about that when I was bicycling today, that actually it's not too bad. That of course in the Netherlands now more than 50% of all bicycles sold are e-bikes, and I'm a big fan of them, as you know. Although I also own an acoustic bike, an old-fashioned bike. I like my e-bike, but like 10 years ago, 15 years ago, it was like, oh, that's only for older people. These days, it's much more accepted, but the fact is that older people use them quite a lot, and that means that they can also keep up with the speed that most people are going. Of course, that leads to a little bit more accidents. It's really hard to ignore that with the growing amount of bicycles, and also the fact that older people are going faster and they don't always wear a helmet. You see quite a lot of older people deciding when they feel unstable. Oops, sorry, I'm also taking my medicine out and I dropped a lot of them on the floor, which is not smart. You notice that quite a few old people do wear a helmet if they feel uncomfortable, but others don't, and of course if they fall they might get hurt more. So it's not like crazy numbers that get hurt on the bicycle, but it does happen. And of course if you have more people driving longer and on more advanced ages, then of course the numbers go up. There's no way around it. It's not good or bad, it's just a fact of life. Believe it or not, but 200 years ago there were hardly any car accidents. There were also no cars, so that kind of helped. Of course I'm trying to be funny here, but that's a valid remark, right? Of course we now get also in the Netherlands that the news is telling us, well, there's like 200 more accidents with e-bikes. Yeah, well, if you have 10 times more e-bikes, that's going to happen. I'll be back in 10 seconds getting some water. This is actually kind of a nice little town we are passing. And here you do notice that most of the inner city of this little village is car free, or at least they try to keep it parked cars away. Now many cities and areas where they are building now, they demand that you have parking inside the building or underground. And the good news there, of course, is that you don't see as much cars parked next to homes. And they are clearly, like me, just doing a Sunday ride. And now we are getting back to the path next to the water that I wanted to show. After 40 minutes, 45 minutes. But you can see, I would guess that it's difficult to see sometimes, but most of the older people are on e-bikes. And I think that's great, personally. Yeah, I want to slow down to look at what she had all on the bike, but then she was swirling around and I was like, whoop! So I think by now we have done about 22 kilometers and we are 15 minutes in, so kind of proof that we are not going crazy fast. My average will probably be like, well, I can look it up on my phone what our average was on this bike ride until we get into the end point, which is probably in about 10 minutes. Let me check. So it was 14 kilometers and 23 kilometers. So this, to give you any idea, the trip going to the place was 23 kilometers. And we did an average speed of 21.7 kilometers. Going back was only 14 kilometers, so we saved 9 kilometers. It was way faster. And our average speed was 23 kilometers, so about 2 kilometers faster. So in total we did 38 kilometers. So now we get back to the water, which I have been promising you. And there are quite a few people in boats. A little bit more difficult to see on this side of the road. And people are fishing, sitting outside, drinking, or on the water with their boats. This is actually quite a nice road. And you can see the cars are going really slow. Yeah, it's difficult for you to judge, of course, but you can see also different people. I noticed, I think it was a few days ago, that somebody in an American video showed people in disability cars being stuck in different ways. Here they can go on the bike paths, and there's bike paths everywhere. That means that people with disability vehicles, electric wheelchairs, small little cars, scooter-like cars can go everywhere where the bicycle is going. They can also probably use some of the other road types, but why would they? You are not going on a pedestrian area if you have a good speed and ability to go left and right and brake, then you're welcome on the bicycle path, as you just saw. And that's a good thing. So you see, of course, that the cars, if there's enough room on the other side of the bicycle path, they will use that to give you as much space as you need. It's not only because they are nice, especially if they are in the city. It's also because they don't want you to hit your car, right? They don't want damage to their car. So it's just a practical thing. To be fair, of course, you always have here different stories. Like in Amsterdam, we would always use Amsterdam as an example of how rude people can be on bikes and cars. And I'm pretty sure the same is true in, for example, America, that the people talking about New York or another big city, that you can't really use a bicycle, or London as an example. But last time I was with family in New Orleans, or slightly above New Orleans, I bicycled in several of the small villages there. And although the cars were massively big, so the big trucks, and there's not many bicycle paths, so they're mostly train to rails, rails to trails kind of setups. So we're now entering Breukelen, but I found that the people also there in smaller, at least the smaller cities around, or villages around New Orleans, people in traffic were extremely polite. Although the average truck is scary big if they are following you. So we entered Breukelen, which is where Brooklyn in the New York got its name from. It's a small village where my parents used to have their second home. And somewhere, when we go back, if you are still with us following this video, we will pass it a little bit more clearly, but we are going to pass a castle which houses business university, the University of Nijrode. So that's not a cheap university, so they have their own castle, which is kind of cool. I would say they are world famous, but I'm not sure. I think they are quite a well-known university. I am Googling that now, just. Yeah, I'm not sure if this is good or bad. I guess it's not terrible. Nijrode Business University is considered the 36th place of universities in the world, so yes, there's probably oh, here I see that it's in the top 10 of business ones, which kind of makes sense. Number 8 of business schools in the world, so okay. It's from their own website, so should we trust them? I guess so. I guess in the business schools it's a well-known one. I think we are going to pass them pretty soon. Yeah, you see these 2 little towers? That's the entrance to the university. So it's in the top 10 of business universities in the world. And further along we see another part of the building, but here you can see the main entrance of the university. And here you see some more buildings. I'm guessing that they also tell us something about how old the castle is, because I have no idea. Yes, I agree with your cookies. I just want to know something about the castle. The Nijrode Business University Breukelen is situated in a historic estate boasting a 13th century castle. So it's from the 13th century, so it's quite old. So one thing it can claim is that its location is older than the universities in the States, I guess. They have different locations, but it's the main location. And again, we are still next to the water. I actually kind of like these types of boats. They are quite big, but there's not much on it or in it. And it's good to hang out with your friends. Of course, this waterway. And now I'm doing this from memory, but I think in the 16th century, so the golden age for the Dutch maritime period, a lot of the Amsterdam and Utrecht, especially Amsterdam shippers, so the people who got rich from both good and bad things they did around the world, they got their second homes, or they got their homes, basically second homes here. So they're quite nice homes that we passed. We've not seen all of them. Clearly there's now some motorcycle gang around. So, and now we are actually going over a small little bridge into this village of Breukelen. So normally I would go to the right to go to my parents' second home. When we are talking about second home, it's not like the second home of the rich people in the 16th century, but we are talking about a small home on the water area, which, if I have to guess, most of them are about, let's do it in meters first, like 4 by 6 meters or something, 4 by 8 meters, something like that. So this is the village square, so people are just again hanging out. But this one is not car free, as you can clearly see. Then I got a little bit confused again. They were building something, so I was not bothering, but I was blocking him.
Sorry. Ik moet even kijken wat ik doen is.
He's like, no, don't worry. There's of course a difference if I'm in Utrecht and know where I'm going normally. That was kind of a nice, it was not even a car, it was a tricycle with... So we're already in the correct area of Breukelen, but we are now going to the central station, or the station of Breukelen. Wouldn't call it the central station because it's a small village, because there is the windmill that we are looking for to take a picture of, for the collection of windmills that I'm taking pictures of collection. So clearly I'm now riding on the commute route information. Again, a good example, but now in the reverse. I know he was behind me and wants to do his training in the Sunday morning, so I hear him pedaling back and I create the room so that he can pass, and he thanked me when I let him pass. And now he's probably a little bit upset because I quite easily can keep track of him. I don't want to go to hover behind him, because I understand that if you're on an e-bike, you're trying to follow an acoustic bike, it doesn't feel great if somebody is easily following you. So I don't mind giving him some extra space. Hopefully I'm still recording. Otherwise I have a problem. Let me check. Yeah, we are still recording. You're still with us. So going over a bridge, and this is actually a new bridge that we are going over the canal, so I can count. I should make a list of all the bridges that I pass over this canal. I think there are about 7 or 8 that I have passed in the last few weeks. But going over this one, and I didn't put that video online because I didn't record it, but I will. This is also, if you follow this canal, it's the bicycle path between Utrecht and Amsterdam. So you can basically follow the canal all the way from Utrecht to Amsterdam. Yeah, we should be getting pretty close to the station. So you can here see the water inlet from the canal into this village. And in front of us we see the windmill that we were looking for. And also, like I said, it's near to their train station. So we could have gone from the train station to here in about 5 minutes. And you can also see the amount of bicycles here, right? It's not just the big cities that have a lot of bicycles. There are bicycles at every station. And also probably somewhere over here a way to get a rental bike. On both sides of the small village, bicycles and bicycles and bicycles. And there we see the target of our trip, this windmill. It's kind of sad because it's next to the car parking place. So we are entering the car parking place to take a picture, or few pictures. I will put a roughly edited picture on the screen here, because that's why we're here. I think I forgot to turn off the camera, and I also forgot to take it off the video, so I'm pretty sure it's still in here. So we are standing here probably for a few minutes until I decide to turn it off. So I guess I can become quiet and then don't talk for a few minutes, or I can just continue talking until we jump to where we're going back. So we also see McDonald's close by, so not just old windmills, but also some American traditions. I think I'm drinking some water and then taking some pictures before I turn the video off. So I'll just be quiet so I can cut it off. What is my shadow doing? It's opening the bag. Yeah, see? Oh, I'm drinking water. I'm drinking water. Clearly, I'm drinking water. Well, I guess I'll leave this in. Luckily, I'm not peeing or something. I just forgot to turn off the camera and also forgot to take it out of the video at the moment, and I don't want to take it out, I think. Or maybe I will, but you will never then see this. There, I'm turning it off. I figured that I turned it off. Did I never turn it off? That might explain why my battery Oh, I did. We already continued. That was a clean cut. Not sure how that happened. I will look back how smooth that went. But we are going back. So we still see the windmill. Clearly I already took the picture and I showed it to you. And there we see the train going to Utrecht. So we're going to follow the train, but it's going a little bit too fast. So by now we have been biking for 1 hour and 10 minutes. And the problem is that the battery only lasts 1 hour and 38 minutes if you do it in 4K 60 frames a second. And that means that we didn't totally make it back. But if you're not too bothered about it, that we are not really getting to the end point, then we are continuing to ride. And now I asked the route planner to plan a route back, but of course this time it does a much more direct route because we didn't get rerouted 24 times. And actually turned out to be an okay nice ride on the other side of the water. So here we are still on the same path, but later on it's routing us in a different way because I routed to my own home and not to the inner city area. And again, this is part of the bike path going all the way to Amsterdam. So it's not all the same quality as this path, so later on it will be a little bit more iffy. Not bad, but just that the lots of trees on that road is... I told you before, the trees next to the bicycle paths are a blessing that you the wind is being blocked and you get some shade if there's too much sun. And but the downside is that the roots of the trees they go under the bicycle path and destroy the asphalt. So they have to shave it and repair it every few years. And sometimes they don't do that often enough and it gets a little bit bumpy. And we are quite entitled in our bicycle demands, so we expect a totally flat, nice surface. Again, you see quite a lot of people because it's Sunday, we talked about this before, on racing bikes, or what we call wielrennen. And I wouldn't say they are more aggressive, but they do not want to slow down if they're trying to do it on a timed thing, which I don't think is... They're not supposed to do it, but everybody has their hobby, and so I will try to get out of the way or make sure that they can do their thing. Although you do sometimes, especially on some of the more busy, let's say tourist routes, you see signs actually aimed at them and explain to them what are the rules in using the bicycle lanes, so they don't act like professional bike racers, which they are, of course are not, because mostly they are just people trying to get in shape. If there is a professional racing going on, as we noticed today in the beginning of this video, part of a city or a place will be locked down by the police and organization, and they can do their thing. So a funny story, in the road in front of my house, which you've seen quite often now, it's I think the only place in the world where all the 3 main cycling events in the world have passed. Don't ask me why, but the Tour de France, the Vuelta, which is the Spanish tour around Spain, although it's in the Netherlands, partly. Tour de France, which again partly was in Utrecht, and the third one was the Giro, which is the Italian one. And they all have blocked my my home in the last 10 years. So we are now going to take a different route back. And we are at some point going to pass the business university again. And I did notice that they have their own semi-road. And they have their own bus stop. And they have quite a nice bicycling path. So I'm not saying it's because of the university, but probably it is. So I guess money helps. So we're slowly getting back to that area. And now that I let commute route it, it will give me a more scenic route, if it can. So this video is probably going to take a while before YouTube has put it online, because I'm guessing it's going to be like a 100 gigabyte file. Which is not a problem for me, but it's kind of fun to see, even if you make these air quotes stupid bicycle videos, that the file sizes are becoming quite big. So an hour of video is about 60 gigabytes. And now we are leaving Breukelen again. Again, a nice example of, I'm assuming, man and wife, one running and the other bicycling. Again, here we have the university. You can see the little bridge and part of the castle. I'm not sure if this is actually the castle, I think it's behind it, but there are some outbuildings, of course. Built in the 13th century, we now know. It must not be a bad place to study. Leidserijn Road is on the sign. And here I think is the official entrance of the university. As you can see, on both sides they have their own bus stop, which is not that weird. Every school kind of has it. But it does mean it's quite easy to, if you go by bike, I guess you can use this one if you want to go all the way to Utrecht or Breukelen to the station if you want to go home. Or you can take the bus. Or I assume if they have a car, they can also take a car. I would not be surprised that there's quite a big parking area inside the university. If you're in the 20s and you're into business school, you might have rich parents, you probably want to take your expensive car there. Not judging, just guessing. And again, we see quite I'm not sure on this route, but this area, if they are not farms, there might be quite nice homes left and right for historical reasons, although most of them in this route will probably be farms. Some greenhouses left and right. But as you can see, this is quite a nice path for going to school, although it's next to, of course, the cars, which I would say is not terrible, but the best bicycle paths between cities, they actually are separated quite far from the road, so that you really feel that you are driving in nature. So among the cows or horses or greenery, wooded areas, farms, of course. Depending on which part of the country, flower fields. Or different crops. So one thing that the Netherlands considers part of the infrastructure, if they are thinking about bicycle paths, is also what's next to the bicycle path. If they can, they try to figure out if they can put, in this case, willows, which were probably already there, but they don't mind that they are there, or they plant them there, or they plant trees, to also as extra protection for cars, but also to break the wind. Although we don't have any mountains, we do have a lot of wind and rain. And yeah, you should not be shocked that they are quite irritating if you're on your bicycle, especially if you're sitting upright. The wind is quite a thing. You can even see it today on this flag coming up. It is quite windy. You don't hear it because the microphone is doing its job. And I'm doing a voiceover, so it's not windy inside my home. Luckily. So you can see this is a 60-kilometer road, and then it's legally it must be a totally separated bicycle path, I think. Correct me in the comments if I'm wrong, but I think that's the case. Or maybe it's the case only for newer roads. But they tend to limit the speed on roads where you are closer to the cars. Now normally there would be red bicycle paths. For some reason, probably just historical reasons, this one is still grey. So it looks quite old, so it might be already 20 years old or something. So if they resurface this one, I think there's a pretty good chance they will turn it into a red bicycle path. So the red is both a signal that's a bicycle path, but it's also made of a different material. It's not just like red paint. It's really the asphalt itself, and the rubber construction that they put in the asphalt is more expensive. But it's red through and through. That means that if they shave it up because of the trees we talked about, so here you see trees, and maybe we see a few things, although sometimes you already see a little bit of repair work where a tree root has influenced the asphalt, and they shaved it off and then they put some black marker on it, or black repair a little bit. But if they would have used that, just paint on top of it, let's say red paint on top of the normal black asphalt, then of course if they shave something off, you would see the black again. So they don't do that. They make it through and through red asphalt, so they can repair it, but it will still keep its color. Of course, these color fade a little bit, as you have seen in many of the red bicycle paths, but the moment that they shave it off, then it becomes more deeper red again. And you can see already quite clearly, you can see it in the image, because sometimes you see it a little bit more shaking, that the trees are indeed influencing the road surface. Which, like I said, we feel entitled to good bicycle paths, so we don't like that. But you can see we are still next to the water, and also on the other side is quite a nice bicycle path, but that was integrated with the road, and this one is separated, as you can see. Means that you're a little bit further away from the water, but it is, I guess, safer. I think if they have to do a totally new one, they would most likely will put the bicycle path on the other side next to the water, because it's nicer for bicycles, and it will also be safer for cars because they will be farther away from the water. so they can't drive in as easily because again, by the way, if you go back, you saw that again this was one of the hired bikes, so the Cargo, yeah, I think Cargo, yellow bikes that you can rent in the city. In this case, it was not a kid in there, but there was a grown man in there, and his pal was biking. I didn't catch that the first time I was watching, so you have to go back to confirm what I just told you. And we're entering the next village called Marsen, which we did a bicycle tour through before. In Marsen we will enter Utrecht. I don't think, although quite a few places in this area have names around New York, because the Dutch started New York, it was called New Amsterdam. So even places like Utrecht are places also in the New York area. And but I don't think there's one called Marsen that's related to an American city name or village name. But maybe I'm wrong. These are my least favorite sort of surfaces. Of course, my bike is not too bad and the camera is not too bad, so it still looks quite smooth, but I don't like the tiles ones. It's easier to fix for them, but they don't ride as nice. I kind of figured I knew where I was. When going back, but later on I get a little bit confused again. I'm just following the route set out for me. And I'm pretty sure I could have driven in a smarter way than he was showing me. And I think if I would have gone my route, then I might have made it home in time for the video to have stopped. But by now we have done so many videos in the surrounding areas that I don't mind that it takes an alternative route. In this case, we ran out of battery along this way. See, she has a helmet on. She was not extremely old. But some people prefer helmets. Not that nobody wears a helmet. It's just not. I guess kids wear helmets if they are on their own. I would say elderly and of course racing bikes are using helmets. For the rest it's say most people don't. So in this case, family with 2 kids, assuming 2 kids, yes, 2 kids, no helmets. I'm pretty sure I could have gone to my left somewhere here, but I made a mistake somewhere and I followed the route planner, which I don't think I should have done. Oh well. I normally bicycle this one in the reverse, so this area. So we'll keep talking, but if I look at the video, there is somewhere an endpoint where the recording stopped. So I'm going to check how far it still is. My guess is in the next few minutes it will stop recording. So if this is the end, we still have 3 minutes. So we are ending up in an industrial area where we have lots of distribution centers for shopping malls and for big supply chains. And we are not fully going to make it to my part of town, because in about 2 minutes the video will stop recording because we ran out of battery. So the DJI camera that we are using, it lasts about 1 hour and 38 minutes. And we are in 1 hour and 32 minutes. So I guess at this time it stopped at 1 hour and 35 minutes. Which is good to know. But it also means that we are nearing the end of the video without a real conclusion. Although we are back in Utrecht, so we are clearly back in Utrecht. But not really back home yet. I think I had to bike another 7 minutes or something to get back home. But also in these industrial areas you see there's bicycle paths, because really not for fun, but people use them if they live in the inner city, for example, but they work at one of these distribution centers or whatever they are, then yeah, they also want to go to work on a bike. I mean, let's say from here to the most places in the city is about 10 minutes bicycle ride, and you're going to take your bicycle and not your car. At least that's what a lot of people decide to do. So in a way, these bicycle paths are even more important because yeah, lots of people go to work using the bicycle. Oh, this is actually it's called fietsenwinkel.nl, so bikeshop.nl, and the biggest e-bike store of the Netherlands. That's what it says. 5,500 square meters. So that's over here. At least we got that on video. It's not the one that I got my e-bike from. Did you know? Because we went to the e-bike store in a previous, or my bike store in a previous video. So it's going to end in 20 seconds. So this is the last corner we are going to see. So thank you for watching, and see you in the next one. Hopefully you enjoyed this trip to Breukelen, or basically me wandering around Utrecht trying to get to Breukelen. So if you're watching, thank you for watching, and see you in the next one. Bye bye.